Second question done. Third question, he brought the issue of Qibla. And when he brought the issue of Qibla, he misquoted some verses here. And I'm going to help out. He misquoted some verses. He quoted chapter 2, verse 142. I'm going to help him out because Sunnis don't study the book. And they deal with issues out of context. When we take chapter 2, verse 142, the guy said, Sayakulu sufa'ahu minan nas ma wallahum an qiblatihim qiblatihim lati kanu. Listen, the word kanu here is used for plural sense when he's talking about a group. If it is one person, it will be kana. Kana, that is one. Kanu is a group. So kanu, listen carefully. Then he says alayha. Then he says kul lillahi al-mashriqu wal maghrib yadi man yashahu ila siratil mustaqim. What is the verse talking about? The foolish among the people will say, what has turned them away? Now, who are the them? Them. The word them. Who are those them? Which we need to understand. Whenever you are dealing with the Quran, you will see that when God is speaking about a particular group, when you check by context, it will tell you which group he's talking about. For instance, when sectarians quote chapter 4, verse 65, and it says, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ. Chapter 4, verse 65. Sunnis like quoting this verse. And then they'll tell you it means the prophet is a judge. To who? Who? It's talking about a group. Who? It's not talking about me. It's talking about hypocrites there. So start the context from chapter 4, verse 61. Read downwards to 65 and see the context of the group he's talking about. The group is about hypocrites. So even if he has to judge, he has to use the book of God. Chapter 5, verse 48, chapter 5, verse 49, chapter 4, verse 105. He is supposed to use the book of God to judge them. You see the point. So what the Sunnis do is, also, when you are checking the verses of God with context, there is something we call what? Paragraph. In Arabic, we say fikra. Paragraph. Even though you are dealing with context, you should understand there is a paragraph. Now, paragraph is pinpoint the beginning of another, issue or sentence. So now, let's take into context and see what happens before. So God was narrating something concerning the previous people. So he started chapter 2, verse 139. He says, so the messenger to say, are you arguing with us about God while he is our Lord and your Lord, and we have our deeds and you have your deeds, and we are sincerely devoted to him? Or are you saying that Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, and the Asbat, the grandsons, that's the tribes, were Jewish or Christians? Now, he's still talking about the foolish. Say, are you more knowing, or is God? And who is more unjust than one who conceals a testimony with him from God, and God is not heedless of what you do? Now remember, the Arabs were already deviated, but then the children of Israel were guided by God. So now out of the children of Israel, the foolish among the children of Israel, when God gave the Arabs guidance through Prophet Muhammad by the Quran, so now they are not wondering, because they already knew Arabs have their culture, their traditions, and then the idol worship they keep doing in the past. They know that. The Jews, the Christians, the children of Israel, they knew that. But now out of the children of Israel, we have groups who call themselves Jews, and we have groups who call themselves what? Christians. So now God was telling the messenger, ask them, say, are you more knowing, or is God? So now, since God has guided the Arabs by choosing a messenger among them, he now has to give them what? A Qibla. Because the children of Israel, they already have their own Qibla also. Do you understand? For instance, if you take chapter 10, verse 87 of the Quran, Surah to Yunus, Prophet Musa and his brother Aaron were asked to tell their people to render their houses as a what? Qibla, and establish the Salat there. Chapter 10 verse 87. So the children of Israel, they already have their Qibla. But then what the children of Israel understood is the Arabs never received any guidance from God. Chapter 36 verse 1 to verse 11 clearly tells you, لِتُنْزِرَ قَوْمًا مَا أُنْزِرَ آبَاؤُهُمْ فَهُمْ غَافِلُونَ. So they were heedless of the guidance of God. Now, they already have a Qibla in the past that they follow, that the Arabs. The children of Israel knowing pretty much well that Muhammad alayhi salam was also an Arab. So now they are going to question his position. Now listen what they said. So we continue to verse 141. That was a nation which had already passed. That is the Ishmael, the Abraham. They are a nation which has already passed. Then God says, it will have what it at end, and you will have, you the messenger, Muhammad, and your people, you will also have what you have earned, and you will not be questioned about what they used to do. The ones in the past, you will not be questioned about what they used to do. Now then, verse 142, now the foolish are going to talk. The foolish among the people will say, what has turned them away from their Qibla, at which they were or they used to be. Because now the Arabs have been given guidance from God. Previously, they had a Qibla that they follow. They didn't know even about God. So when God taught the messenger and told these foolish that, are you more knowing or is God more knowing? Which means now God has given them a guidance which they are following. And the foolish are surprised that, hey, now they have a Qibla. What turned them away from their previous Qibla? Because we know them as idol worshippers and whatever have you. So now the answer is going to come. Then it says, the foolish among the people will say, what has turned them away from their Qibla, at which they were or which they used to be? Then it goes, say, to God belongs the east and the west. He guides whomever he wills to a straight path. So you see the issue of guidance came in. Because previously the Arabs were not guided. So now God has guided them. And then the foolish among the people, maybe it can be among the Jews, Christians, they were wondering what turned them away from the Qibla they used to be. So now God gave the answer. He guides whomever he wills to a straight path. So Qibla is a place you take a guidance from. Do you see? It's a place you go, you will take your guidance from that place. Now let's go. So chapter 2 verse 143. And then God says, and thus have we made you a central nation. Now he's talking to the believers. Listen carefully. He said, Ja'alnakum. The believers God has chosen, Muhammad and his people. And thus have we made you a central nation. I'm going to read it in Arabic. Listen carefully. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. So if the believers become shuhada, witnesses over the people, listen carefully, so that you may be witness over the people, then he says what? وَيَكُونُ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. And the messenger will now what? Be a witness over you, the believers, because he is with them. So if his people become witnesses over the people, he, the messenger, will be a witness over them, the believers with him. Then what happens? And we did not assign the Qibla. The Qibla now he is at, because previously they were misguided. Now God has guided him. So he has given him a Qibla. So God says, we did not assign the Qibla at which you are. I use the word Kunta. And the ignorant person says, always Kunta has to be in the past. You see how uneducated the mushriks are. So I'm going to give you examples where Kunta is used in present sense. Always check the context. But fools don't check context. So I'm going to help you. How do we know the Kunta there is present? Go to chapter 4 verse 102. Chapter 4 of the Quran verse 102. Listen how God was talking to the prophet in present tense. So God says, وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةِ. God says, and when or whenever you are among them, you Muhammad, Kunta, Whenever you are among them, then establish the salat for them. وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةَ. Is it in the past? Ask the foolish person who doesn't study Quran. He will tell you, oh no, kunta means where, you were. It's not in the present. وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمْ الصَّلَاةَ. And when you are among them, then establish the salat for them. This is not about the past. This is present and continuous. So when you, Muhammad, are among them, then establish the salat for them. Again, I'm going to help him again with another kunta. So now, if I take you to chapter 20, verse 35, we are going to see another kunta, right? Chapter 20, verse 35, it says, Innaka kunta basira. Innaka kunta bina basira. It says, indeed, you are seeing, and you are aware of us. Moses and Aaron are talking to God. Moses and his brother were talking to God. So they told God, indeed, you are aware of us, or you are cognizant of us. You see us. You are. It is you were. Understand words in context. A word must have meanings first. Most of Arabian words has multiple meanings. So understand what they mean first before you put them into context. If you try to look for external sources, you are in limbo. So try to understand what a word means. The word kunta can be used in the past, present, and future. Yes. And again, the next example can be found in what? Chapter 38, verse 75 of the Quran. Chapter 38, verse 75. The word what? Kunta can also be found there. And it is what? In the present. So I take you to chapter 38, verse 75. Let's see how it was used for the devil. God says, God said, oh Lucifer, what prevented you from prostrating or showing your submission to what I created with my hands? Are you arrogant? Are you arrogant? Then he says, or are you of the haughty ones? It's a present question. So God is asking him a question. Are you this or are you that? It is not in the past. But when sectarians are trying to translate all these things, they will put it in the past because the Hadith is telling them all this gibberish. You understand? Iblis acted arrogant. So God is now questioning him presently by saying, are you arrogant or are you of the haughty ones? It is not a past question for you to say, were you of the this or were you of the that? No. You can understand. The word kunta is there. You can see it there. Am kunta minal alim. Those who see themselves as superior, like feeling, arrogant. So this is the case closed for the word kunta. Now let's go back into context concerning what the Quran says in chapter 2, verse 142 to 150, if time permits me. Then I explain to you. So now we put it in the context. So 143. And the messenger will be a witness over you, and we do not assign the Qibla. You see that the word Qibla there is a definite article. So here I want you to pay attention. The Quran, you need to contemplate when you are dealing with the Quran. Don't just take the Quran and read anyhow you want. Contemplate. Deal with the subject in a verse. The subject is about the Qibla. And that word Qibla there, it has adatul tarif. In Arabic, we say definite article. So that word says al-Qiblata. It is a definite Qibla. It didn't change. Now, when something is definite, if I'm talking to you and I say the boy, it is definite. The boy is definite. It's unchangeable. If I say the book, it means you know what I'm talking about. It's unchangeable. So now God is talking to the messenger. He says, and we did not assign the Qibla, listen carefully, the Qibla at which you are. Kunta is not in the past, at which you are. So now we're the one reading. We will ask the question, which Qibla was that? So the answer is there. Keep reading by context. Don't rush it. Except that we may find out who will follow the messenger, because now God has chosen a messenger among the Arabs. Before, they didn't have guidance. They didn't have any messenger before. So now God chose somebody among them and gave them a messenger. So the messenger comes with the guidance. Chapter 61 verse 9. Huwa allazi arsala rasulahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyuzhirahu ala ad-din kullihi walau kariha al-mushrik. Even if the mushriks detest it, God has chosen the messenger among the Arabs. So he sent him with the guidance and the what? Religion of truth, or the true deen. Do you see here? So now God says he did that to see the mushriks, or the divisional people, the Jews, the Christians, the children of Israel. He wants to see their reaction. So listen what will happen. And we did not assign the Qibla at which you are now, which we have given you now. I'm going to show you which Qibla is that, the one he was given. At which you are, except that we may find out who will follow the messenger, and from one who will turn on his back on his heels. And it is not important except for those whom God has guided. So whom God has guided will now follow the new messenger God has chosen. Because always the children of Israel are boastful. They think they have all the messengers. So now a messenger has been assigned among Arabs too. And then you have to follow him. Just like God made the prophecy in chapter 7 verse 157. Whom they found written in their what? Their books. Whom they found. So they have to follow him if they want to follow God. Because God specifically explained it to Moses in chapter 7 verse 155 to 157. He emphatically explained to Moses the criteria of the messenger to come, what he will do, who will follow him, and this is what you have to follow the light with him. So now the answer is there. And it is not important except for those whom God has guided. And God is not to waste your faith. Indeed, God is to the people kind and merciful. Then we go verse 144. Now this is what he has been given. This is the Qibla mentioned in 143. Remember, the Qibla mentioned in 140 is a definite article. It's unchangeable. Right? It's unchangeable. When something is definite, it's not changed. So now, we have seen your face turning around toward the sky. So we have entrusted to you a Qibla with which you will be pleased. So turn your face towards the what? Sacred masjid. That is Masjid al-Haram. It's going to be a base where he will base at, and people will come to him there, just like people came to Abraham. Do you get the point? So now he says, and wherever you may be, thus turn your faces. It's not talking about when you are establishing salat, face it and pray. God never said anything like that. God never said face the Masjid al-Haram, because a masjid is a place of what? Where you go and worship God. So why will you now face a masjid to do salat again? Does it make sense? No. So don't put salat there. It's not talking about salat in this verse at all. There's nothing like prayer or salat here. So now God says, and wherever you may be, thus, remember, God is talking to some believers at that particular time. It's not talking about you and I right now. Listen carefully. Wherever you may be, the ones God says he has made them a central nation. Listen carefully. Start from 143. He's talking about the believers he has made as a central nation. He says, so turn your faces towards the sacred masjid, and wherever you may be, thus turn your faces towards it. You can see it says it. It. It is something specific being pointed at. So turn your face, shatarahu. And it is used in what? Masculine pronoun. Shatarahu. Turn your faces towards it. Then he says what? So that those who were given the book will know that it is the truth that God spoke about, that there's a messenger coming. God already told them in their books that there's a messenger coming. Remember, chapter 7 verse 157. He already told those people. So they know, so that those who were given the book will know that it is the truth from their Lord. And God is not heedless of what they do. So out of those who were given the book, it was the foolish who were saying what turned them away from their Qibla, which they used to be. Because the Arabs never had guidance before. So they had a Qibla, a form of Qibla they are following already. So now a Qibla has been given to them. This is the Masjid al-Haram. This is their base. This is why they were supposed to drive out the mushriks away from the Masjid al-Haram, so that they can occupy that place and dominate it. Now when you go to 145, God says, and whether you bring every sign to those who were given the book, they will not follow your Qibla. Neither shall you be a follower of their Qibla. Listen carefully. Nor will they be followers of each other's Qibla. Do you see how it goes? So, Qibla can be, Mushrik can have a Qibla, a Kafir can have a Qibla, because this is his place of taking his guidance from. Do you see? So now, and if you follow their inclinations after what has come to you of the knowledge, indeed, you in that case will be among the transgressors. So this is what God told the prophet. You see it clearly. So now, the reason why God told Moses and Aaron to render their houses as what? Qibla, and then establish the Salat, because the Salat, verses of God will be recited to you. You'll be taught verses of God. You understand? And you need to put it into action also. It's not about being told the guidance and then, oh, I just listen, I say Amen and I'm done. That is it. No. It has to impact in your life. That is where you take your guidance from. So this is why God asked Moses and Aaron to render their houses as what? Qibla, and establish the Salat there. And remember, the Salat is supposed to refrain you from what? Obscenities and abomination as well. That is guidance. Because if you were not guided before, and now a messenger will be reciting verses of God to you, you have to take your guidance from the book he has been given to bring to you. So by then, there should be a place of Qibla. That is a Qibla, where you guys will be. You understand? So he has been given the what? Masjid al-Haram, where the base was.